So guys, in the last session, we have been seen about what is going to be an object-oriented programming style. So how the OOPS style of programming is going to there. So we need not to understand what is OOPS. We have to just understand what is the OOPS style, the style of programming we have to study about them. As I told you, which is going to be nothing but what is the style of object-oriented guys? For everything, what is object-oriented says is, whenever we want to work with any particular item, when you're working with that means whenever we are working with this, when you're working with the same type of item you're working, instead of declaring the variables for each item individually, what we can do is for all the items belongs to the same type. That's why what we can do is simply you define a class. So let us say that it is going to be a class. As I told you, for example, a class called as a student class. So whatever the variables, whatever the functionalities that are required to handle the students, you define everything within the student class. Whatever the functionalities you require, whatever the variables you require, everything you define as of the, what we can say that, as of that particular student class. Mainly, what can a class contains actually, guys? A class can contain some variables. A class can contain some kind of an variables actually, guys. It is going to be nothing but variables. Plus, it is also going to contain some kind of a functions also. So we know what are variables actually, guys. Variables are going to be basically used to hold some data. It is going to be variables are basically to handle some values or to handle some data, or just to hold the data only we are going to be gets using actually. Whereas whenever the functions we are going to be using, what is a function? Basically, a function is going to be nothing but which takes some kind of an input and which is going to be doing some kind of a process. So this function are going to be nothing but what we can do is the manipulations, whatever the manipulations with that particular variables actually, with the variables, whatever you want to do that. So I told you, I'm going to discuss about a little bit more about the functions in the coming classes. I'm going to be discussing in the later classes a little bit more discussion. We are going to be doing it actually. I'll do it a little bit more discussion on that. As of now, I'm not discussing about this. So once again, this is going to be, so if it is going to be nothing but a class, which is going to contain something called as n, which is going to be a student class. Let us say that whatever the variables that are required to handle that particular variables, put it into just there are going to be some variables actually. These variables are nothing but what we are going to call it as attributes. So variables, normally there are variables. Whenever there are outside the class, they are called as variables. Whenever there are inside the class, they are called as attributes. What are these functions actually, guys? Functions are nothing but whenever a function is written inside the class, it is going to be what we are going to call it as a method actually. So method is nothing but a function, but that function is going to be limited only with that particular class. You cannot use wherever you want to use it. Function means generally general idea actually, because function means, like for example, let us talk about a function called as a length. Length is a function which is going to take some argument as an input, as an argument, which is going to be a kind of an object, anything you can give it actually. So here I'm saying that in Python, length is a function actually. What is basically the basically the functionality of the length? To find out the length of the particular values. How many values are there? I can use the length on the string. I can find out the length of the string. I can find the length of the it is going to be a list. Not only this, tomorrow if you want to find the length of the tuple, or if you want to find the length of the set, any object you can apply. So length is not fixed. It is not limited only to a particular object. It can be used with any kind of an object, what we can work with them actually, guys. You can work with any kind of an object, what we are going to be gets working with that. That is what we are going to call it as a function. I'm not limiting. I cannot say that length is used only for a string, length is used only for a list, or length is used only for a tuple. It can be used with any kind of an object. That is what we are going to call it as a function. But the same function, whenever we have been defined within the class, that particular function can be used only with respect to that particular object only we can do it actually. Like for example, I defined a function which is going to be nothing but it's a find marks. So let us say that whenever I say find the total marks actually, or find total actually, let us say that. Now this find total is a function which is basically used to manipulate with the variables which are defined within this particular class. Like I told you yesterday, which is going to be M1, M2, M3. If there are going to be 3 marks are there, so it is basically used to manipulate. It can access only these 3 variables only. It can access only these 3 variables only. All these variables, whatever we define in the class, can be accessible inside the functions. We can access inside the functions also. Inside the functions. That means we are putting, you are all going to be under the, you are all going to be under one scope. These are going to be under another scope. Like that, we are just limiting their particular accessibility. It is going to be nothing but their accessibility is restricted actually, guys. So maybe you have been heard about that in object oriented will have a like the terms like which is going to be public, which is going to be private, something protected, something like that. These are going to be the values actually. Public means anybody can access it. Private means only within that particular class only we can access. Outside the class, it is going to be restricted. Something like that. We are going to be having something like that. So we are not going into them. We are not going to into them actually, guys. Later, we are going to be gets working with that kind of an applications later. So that is basically how we are going to be understanding them actually. Now, so what is actually a function? Function and method, both of them are same only, guys. Function means it's a generalized. You can use it with anywhere you want to use it. Method, whenever it is going to be the limited, it is going to be the limited only within that particular class. Then we have to call it as a method, what we are going to call it as. A slightly difference between them, guys. How do you access the variables? For example, whenever there is an M1, M2, M3 is there, or whenever there is a find total is there, you cannot directly access M1, M2, M3 directly. What we have to do for every class, as I told you, class is only just a specification which does not take any memory at all. Then what we have to do? So we have to first create an object. We have to first create an object actually. The general style I told you, which is going to be nothing but a student. I'm defining a student S1 is equals to nothing but a new student. So internally one object is created. The name of the object is S1, which is going to belongs to a class called as a student class. So student is a class name and S1 is going to be nothing but what we can say that it is going to be nothing but the S1 is going to be nothing but what I can say is it is an object name actually. But how can you access actually, guys? S1 dot, which is going to be M1 is equals to 60 marks. S1 dot M2 is equals to, for example, 70 marks. S1 dot, which is M3 is equals to, let us say some 85 marks. Now I want to find the total. No need to write any code for that because I created a function called as a find total. Internally I'll write the code. I want to find out M1 plus M2 plus M3. Being I have been defined this function within the scope of the student, it can access M1, M2, M3 directly. It does not belongs to any other M1 or other M2. It does not work. It is only limited only to the student class only. So simple, I can say S1 dot, which is going to be find total. Automatically, it is going to find out S1 dot. I'm working only on the student class. So who's M1, who's M2, who's M3 now? S1, M1, S1, M2, S2, M3, S1, M3 actually. It automatically calculates 60 plus 70 is 130. 130 plus which is going to be 80. I think it is going to be 215 or something as an output actually, guys. Right. So directly it is going to tell you. So there is another student is there. Again, the same procedure, which is going to be student S2 is equals to nothing, but it's a new student actually. It is a new student. Now same procedure, S2 dot, which is going to be M1 equals to 80 marks. S2 dot, which is going to be M2, let us say 90 marks. S2 dot, which is going to be M3. Let us say that it is 85 marks. Now, if I said S2 dot find total, you are specifying completely. We are specifying. I am asking about the find total only of the student 2, not with the student 1. Not with the student 1. Everything I'm going to be doing with respect to that particular, whatever the work, whatever that particular object is there, with respect to that object only, I'm going to be gets working here now. That is going to be the work which we are going to be gets working with that. So no need to say, if I say find total means whose find total. Now here there is no confusion. It is going to be, which is going to be S1, S2 only, it is going to be there. So it is going to be S1 dot find total. So it works within the scope of only S1 only. S2 dot find total, it will work only within the scope of the S2 only. No need to say that I want to find the marks of S1 student, S2 students, not required. S1 dot M1, S1 dot M2, S1 dot M3. find the total, S1 dot find total. It is only belongs to S1. So every object you are separating. You are not mixing up with one variable with one object with another object. So here the S1 scope will be there. So the scope of S1 here only there is an M1 will be there. Here only there is an M2 is there. Here only there is an M3 is there. There only you are having a find total. This find total scope is only within the limit of S1 only. Again, if you make it S2, it is going to be another object. Again, there also M1, M2, M3. But whenever I said which is going to be find total, this find total is going to be only within the scope of S2 only it is going to be gets working. So that is the way how this particular scope is going to be gets working actually, guys. That is a basically understanding about this particular the object oriented styles. So how do you use an attribute? How to use an attribute? S1 dot M1. That's it. It's an attribute actually. Just try to understand how to access an attribute, how to access a method S1 dot which is going to be find total. Sometimes the function, this function, no, it may take some argument, may not take some argument. Here find total is not taking any arguments. This is what we call it as method. So the style of calling is going to be, the style of usage is going to be slightly different. S1 dot M1 is an attribute. S1 dot find total, sometimes it may take some argument, some input may be taken, may not be taken. The method is going to be called like this actually, guys. And an attribute is going to be used like this. You should not put any parentheses for attribute, and you should not leave the parentheses for the particular this one. For example, if you forgot, let us say that if attribute is used like this, you are going to get an error. It is going to be get an error actually. Simply it says that I didn't find M1 is there. It cannot be callable. Your M1 object is going to be not a callable, or M1 that particular attribute is not a callable actually, because we cannot call it. So whenever you are getting a message saying that not a callable, understand that it is an attribute. Whenever we have been, it's an error actually, guys. But whenever we call the function method as in simply like an attribute like this, if I write like this actually, you don't get an error, but you are going to get a warning actually. It clearly says that find total is a method. It is not an attribute. It's a warning will come. But whereas if you call a method attribute as a method, it's an error. And method as an attribute, if you call it, we are going to get a warning actually, guys. Okay, fine. So mainly this style is required actually, guys, only in this particular style. So why we have been, first of all, why we have been got discussing about all these things? Why we are going to be discussing about all these things? Because Python always follows the object-oriented style. It follows object-oriented. Actually, we don't even, that means whenever we work with our Python, we don't even, I don't explain how to create a class also in the Python. I don't create it. I don't create it actually, guys. But then why we are going to be learning? Because Python is completely an object-oriented style of programming. The Python is going to be completely an object-oriented style of programming is going to be gets coming actually, guys. It's completely an object-oriented programming style. What is this object-oriented programming style? If you want to understand that, actually speaking, carefully, guys, we'll connect the points step by step, step by step. If you have any questions, guys, please feel free to discuss with me. Either you can text me, or that means texting means you can in the chat panel, you can text it actually. Otherwise, you can unmute yourself. I told you, no, if you unmute yourself, maybe some background noise will be coming that will disturb our session. If you don't have any background noise, if you don't have any background disturbance from your side, you can unmute and you can speak. Otherwise, you can just please, you can use the chat panel and text it to everyone so that everybody can understand what is the questions. Because initially, some people it is going to be a little bit easy because who has been already done Java. For those people, it is going to be easy. But for what about the people who do not have the idea about them? So for them, it is going to be a little bit a confusion will be there. But let us connect the points actually. Why we are discussing about that? Actually, we have been discussed about some data types, like I told about integer. We have been discussed about a float. We have discussed about a string. We have been discussed about a bool. And recently we have been got discussed about a list. The first of all, the things are, guys, what is int, what is float, what is string, what is bool? Normally we said that data types. What is a list? Okay, it is a sequence. Yeah, it is a sequence actually, guys. But in Python, everything we are going to use, any type you are going to be using in Python is going to be nothing but it's a class. Actually, guys, integer, float, string, bool, they are actually not the data types. They are actually the classes actually. They're actually classes. But sir, I didn't never said that. So if you observe carefully, I is equals to 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, I said that I is a variable which is going to be accommodates the value of 1, 2, 3, 4. I is not an variable actually, guys. It is an object. It is an object. The difference between variable and object is, guys, variable will store the value. Object will store only the address. It will store the address of that particular location actually. That is what we can call it as the object actually. Okay, so definition I told you about that. Object is nothing but simply whatever the physical existence of a particular class, the physical existence of a particular item is nothing but what we call it as an object actually. You can say that it is nothing but an object name, the name of the object actually. Whenever I said I equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, actually guys, internally there is a class called as an integer. I'll make all the things clear. Have a look at this. So in Python, already there is a class called as an integer class is already there, guys, is already there. We don't define them. We don't define the classes. We only use as the classes, but we are not going to define the classes actually, guys. We are not going to define the classes actually. Okay. So whenever it is going to be whenever we are going to be comes to this particular data actually, guys. Now have a look at this one. Whenever I said I equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, internally, what will happen? Just an idea I'm telling actually, guys. Internally, it is going to be integer I is equals to new integer. That means internally, there is an object called as an I is getting created with a class called as an integer class. So whatever I told you, we will be having attributes and we are having the methods. So whatever the attributes and whatever the methods that are defined in this integer class will be automatically associated with this I actually. It is automatically associated with that particular I actually, guys. Isn't it? So that is going to be what exactly this Python is going to do that. So in Python, everything is going to be a class. Integer is a class, float is a class, string is a class, bool is a class. I said X is equals to, for example, hello. For example, guys, whenever I said X is equals to hello, what is going to happen? Internally, it's a class called as n. That's why whenever I said which is going to be type of X, you have been seen clearly, guys. It does not says that when I say type of X, it does not says that it is going to be a data type called as a string. Hope you remembered. It is going to say that it is a class called as a string class. Isn't it, guys? Whenever I said integer I equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, when I said type of the I, it is going to say that it is going to be a class integer actually. It's not saying that type integer. It's not saying that it is going to be type integer. It's saying that it's a class integer. It's a class string, what we are going to call it as. Now have a look at this. Actually, internally, there is a class string which is already predefined in Python. These are all predefined classes, guys. We are not defining any classes. We are not working with any student class, teacher class. Student class, teacher class are our defined. But integer, float, string, bool, list, all these are going to be internally defined by the Python only. Again, there are some attributes are there, and there are going to be some methods are there. Now, whenever I said which is going to be X equals to hello, internally what is happening actually? It is going to be string class. String S or string X is equals to, which is going to be nothing but new string. You need not to write all these things internally by yourself, guys. Internally, all these things is going to happen automatically. Internally, all these are going to be happens automatically. Now, what is going to happen here is this X object, X is an object which is going to be created from a class called as a string class. So whatever the attributes, whatever the methods that are associated with the string class is automatically, it has to associated with the X. So I can say X dot attribute. I can say X dot method. You know how to call a method. You know how to call an attribute actually, guys. Got the point, guys? Same as it is, I said X is equals to, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. We know that X is going to be nothing but it's a list, but it is not actually a data type called as a list. Internally, there is a class called as a list class, which is going to be nothing but it's a list. It is associated with some attributes and it is going to be associated with some methods. I told you, attributes are nothing but just like variables, which can hold the data, Methods are going to be nothing but the functions, which are basically used to manipulate the data, manipulate the attributes. That is for storing, and this is going to be nothing but what we can say that. So which is going to be nothing but which we can say that they are basically for manipulations actually. And this is basically used for which is going to be nothing but the attributes or hold the data, and methods are basically for manipulations with that particular object. That means the object level manipulations, whatever the manipulations you want to do, you can do it actually. So internally what happened actually, guys, when you said x is equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, internally what happened here is list x is equals to nothing but it is going to be nothing but it's a new list. List x is equals to nothing but it's a new list actually. Now what happens now? X is going to be associated with all the attributes with all the methods associated with the list. Remember, for example, if I tell you a method, like I have given a method like count, for example, guys. Now this count is a method associated with the list class. So this count method can be used only with the list class only, but not with an integer class or not with a string class. Not with an integer class, not with a string class. So inside that class, whatever that the method is associated with the list class, only from a list only I can use. If it is not a list, we cannot use the method actually. So that should be a little bit a connecting points actually. So anybody, that means who do not have any idea about object oriented, so for those particular people, guys, open this particular w3schools.com. It's a very popular, it's a popular online resources actually, guys, where you can learn almost all languages here. Every language you can learn it here actually, guys. Just observe carefully how many different types of languages we have it actually. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, programming, Python, Java, C, C++, R, C#, okay, Go, Django. Okay, so many things, server-side scriptings like SQL, MySQL, PHP, ASP, Node.js. Okay, you can learn the Git. So you can web building, creating a website. So all these we can do it actually, guys. Data analytics part we can see. All these things we can learn it from here now. So go to, I'm not talking about Python, you learn Java. Go to Java first of all, guys. I'm not saying that you have to learn Java here now. So go to the Java tutorials. This is Java tutorials, guys. Here we are going to be having something, a concept called as an just only 3-4 topics actually, guys. Not more than that is required. What is object oriented? What are classes and objects? What are attributes? What are methods? That's it, guys. These 4 pages only you have to learn. So what is OOP? So OOP stands for which is going to be object oriented programming. I told you, no, procedural programming is about writing procedures or methods that perform some operations on the data, while object oriented programming is all about creating that objects that contains both data and the methods actually. Some little bit advantages are going to be there. So you can understand this kind of an object. There is a class called as a fruit. What are the different types of fruits we have? Different types of objects we have. Apple, banana, mango. Every fruit is going to be having a color. Apple will have a color, banana will have a color, mango will have a color. Like what is the weight of the particular fruit? Something like that. So we can create a fruit. So apple is going to be nothing but an instance from the class called as a fruit. So apple is a fruit, banana is a fruit, mango is also going to be fruit. Same as it is, a Volvo is a nothing but one car type. Audi is a one car type. It's a Toyota. But all of them are coming from the car class only actually, guys. So you can just see a class is like a template for the objects, and an object is nothing but an instance of a class. Very simple application, guys. As I told you, when the individual objects are created, they inherit or they are associated with all the variables and methods of that particular class. That's it. This is a general style of programming. I'm not saying that you have to learn Java, but what is meaning of an attribute? What is meaning of? So everything in Java is associated with classes and objects along with attributes and methods. For example, in a real life, a car is an object. Actually, car is a class. Car is a class. Every car is going to be having some attributes, as I told you, like weight, color, etc. And there are going to be some methods, manipulation, such as drive and brake. So when to apply a drive, when to go for a particular brake. So when to apply them. It's a kind of an working with that particular, what we can say with the car actually. So just generally I have told you about that. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about this. Just it is going to be how they have been got created actually. Just 2 to 3 pages actually, yes. Just 2 to 3 pages. If you understand them, that is going to be sufficient actually. So how to access the attributes? As I told you, to access the attributes by creating an object of the class and using a dot syntax actually, guys. The object name dot, we have to use it actually. So where is your object? Object name dot, what we can do that? Because there are variables, you can add them, we can modify them, whatever you want, we can do it actually, guys. If you want some examples actually, guys, you can also try yourself. There is going to be some, we are going to be having some kind of an editors will be there. Just if you want to test some program, if you want to just some kind of a testing of a small program, you can write it actually here, guys. Can you see here now? Something they have been written. Main my object is equals to new main. My object dot x is equals to 25. System dot out dot println my object dot x. Something like that. So we can write some code and you can change the code. For example, I said which is going to be run that particular code actually, guys. You can see whatever the output we are going to be getting actually. You'll get the output actually. It's a kind of a runtime environment will be given. For example, if I just do something like this, I didn't assign 25, your x is going to be 10. I created an object called as an, it's not that you have to give only the name my object only. You can give some name called as an s. You can just try with that examples actually. I can say something called as an s dot x. So I have a variable called as an x equals to 10. So I created an object actually. Main s is equals to new main. An object s is created. Print the value of s dot x. Run the code. You are going to be getting a value called as n. 10 is the value what we are going to be getting. Why you will get 10? We know them actually, guys. You can see the result actually. So for your practice purpose, there is a runtime environment is there. You can just run. You can write your own codes. Whatever the code you want to write, you can write it. Just an example, if you want to write it actually, guys, I can write some code actually, guys. How do you write it actually, guys? Let us say just an example I'm writing actually. It is going to be class student actually. Just you can write the code actually, guys. Integer which is going to be ID, M1, M2, and it is M3. Just I'm talking about an example actually, guys. Which is going to be nothing but string, which is going to be nothing but it's a name, something like that. You define whatever you want to define it. I'm defining a method also. Integer which is going to be the find total. Integer which is going to be find total, and I want to return something called as n. You can write the code actually, guys. It's not required actually for you. It is M1, M2, and M3 actually, guys. This is going to be nothing but your function. So if you just want to write, you can write that code very clearly. This is going to be nothing but integer, which is going to be nothing but the find total. So what is this function find total will do? It is going to be returning some value, what I'm going to call it as the return the value of, which is going to be M1 plus M2 plus M3. This is a class called as a student actually. Now you can write an application actually. Just an example I'm talking about. You can write this particular code actually, guys. So then I'm going to write then the publics. Actually, it's a Java style of programming. Just you really don't require to worry about them actually. Just basically the idea actually, guys. Here, the main method. Here is a main method is there, no? Right? Okay. So that's why that's a confusion actually. That is for your confusion maybe. So that's why what I'm going to do is simply not to have a confusion. I'll say that it is a student s is equals to, I'll say that it is going to be new student. It is going to be new student actually, guys. Just like this, we are going to do that application actually. So this is going to be here. Just a minute. And this is not required actually. So this is terminated here. This is terminated here. Yeah. Yes. You can say something. Yeah, you can do it actually. Now what we can do it actually, guys. Let us say that s1.id equals to 1001. S1 dot, which is going to be the name, which is going to be, let us say it is Vamsi. Like this actually, guys. S1 dot M1 is equals to, let us say 50 marks. S1 dot, which is going to be M2, let us say that it is a 60 marks. Everything we have to say S1 dot. You cannot directly access in, guys. You have to create an object and we have to access it actually. M3 is equals nothing but, let us say, some 65 marks. I want to print all the values actually, guys. Let us say that I want to print S1 dot, which is going to be ID. I want to print ID actually. Otherwise, if you want, we can do it. ID is equals to, that should be concatenated with S1 dot ID. Just I'm running the program actually, guys. Nothing is there. Just I'm running the program. You can see some kind of an application actually. It is going to be done. Public static void main string of args. Student S is equals to new student. Oh, some small syntax errors will be there, guys. You can just rectify and we can work with that actually. Yeah. Oh, because we have been habituated with the Python style now. So in Python, we don't have any problem with writing single quotes and double quotes. We don't have a difference. So that is the style what we are going to be having it actually, guys. So in that particular style, it is going to be going for actually. So what is happening? Public static void main, which is going to be string of args. It is fine now, class student. S1 dot M3, it is, I think so. Okay. Yeah. Actually, the main problem here is when you move from, when you go to the Java, it's in, because a very long time we have been, maybe it is going to be class student string of, which is going to be, everything is fine. Just give me a minute actually. Class interface or enum expected, public static void main. Everything is fine. Any errors, guys? New. Oh. Yeah. Okay, so let us do one thing. Okay, just it's an idea actually, guys. As well, leave it. Does not matters with us. So whether it is going to be having some errors. Okay, so it is going to be okay. We done a mistake actually, guys. It is purely S1 actually. Okay. No issue. Right. So I think so. It may be a runtime problem actually, guys, because the environment is not on our system actually. So otherwise, I'll do one thing. Just give me a minute once. If you have any that kind of an issue, we'll do one thing. It's a runtime environment, which is not student S1 is equals to new student, written correctly only. Class this one, integer, string name. Maybe no. Maybe public static void main. Everything is fine only, no? Syntactically. Method public here. So leave it, guys. Just a minute. Just leave it actually. So I think so. Class is student, integer, fine total. This is fine. This is terminated fine. Public static void main arguments. Okay. So okay, leave it. It does not matter with that. Actually, being it's a runtime environment, it may be the problem with those applications. Their runtime environments are going to be gets working. So our runtime applications are not working. Okay, just leave it. It does not matter with that. And we'll see with an application. Main, I think so. You have to define main. Okay. Sorry, guys. Actually,
it has to be class main.
Yeah, it has to be within a class actually. Okay, so it is going to be nothing, but it is going to be okay. I don't want to make all these things actually, guys. So let us say that it's only just an idea. So I'm not interested to do all these kind of an examples. Just only some kind of an application. I just want to do that. Yes, it was done actually. So we don't have, that means whenever we move from Python to Java, even I was not an expert in a programming, because my specialization is completely all about working with the data. So I am not a specialist in Java also. So I have some basic idea, so I can handle it. If I give some data and ask me to explain, I will be in a position to explain this, but not a problem. Okay, have a look at this one. Let us just, I think all the problem has been got rectified. So you can display all the things actually, guys. What is going to be the name, which is going to be SID dot, which is going to be the name. Same as it is. I'm going to say that what is going to be M1. So M1 is equals to nothing but S1 dot M1 actually. So you really don't require to install any Java in your system and all these things not required. Just you can straightforward, you can take some environment here and we can work with an application actually, guys. This is going to be M2 and this is going to be nothing but it is S1.M2 and I'll say M3, which is going to be S1.M3, right? It was done. Run the program, run the code. So don't worry about them, guys. Just it's an idea I'm talking about that. See, I created one object actually. So we got it. Now I want to find the total of these particular marks. No need to write any code actually, guys. What is going to be nothing but the total marks equals to simply I can say no need to write s1.m1 plus s1.m2. You need not to write. Already I specified the find scope within the scope of a student. Then what we have to write it here now, s1 dot, which is going to be nothing but it's a find total actually. It's a method. Being it is a method, you have to call like this actually, guys. Like parenthesis, by putting a parenthesis, we have to call it actually. So now if you run it, you can see what is going to be the find total actually, guys. So this is going to be the total marks equals to 50 plus 60, which is going to be 110. 110 plus 65, it is 175. Now one more student is there, same procedure. You need not to write all that. That means again, you need not to declare again one variable for ID, one variable for name, not required. Student S2 is equals to new student. Same as it is, let us say there is another class is there. Let us say that you can just do it actually, guys. Let us say that class which is going to be teacher actually. So inside that particular class teacher, I can say integer ID is there. Like for example, HRA, TA, DA, these are the things are there. Same as it is, I'm having a string. String is going to be nothing but name. And we are having something called as a subject actually. So like this, we can work with them actually, guys. Now, if I create an object of that particular class teacher, I can access only from the teacher object ID, HRA, TA, DA, name and a subject. But I cannot access the find total here now. Because find total scope is only for student, find total scope is not with respect to the teacher actually. So just an idea about this I'm going to be doing. So I want to create an object actually, guys. I said teacher T1 is equals to, I can say nothing but, I can say it is going to be new teacher actually. Something like this. T1 dot ID is equals to, let us say something like 1. T1 dot, which is going to be name. Let us say something called as N, like Suresh or something like that. T1 dot, which is going to be something like N, which is going to be some HRA is equals to, let us say some 5,000. T1 dot, which is going to be something like N, you can say TA is equals to, let us say something like N 400, something like this actually, guys. Okay, so we can do that. So what is going to be T1 dot, which is going to be some DA is equals to, for example, 500. Now I want to find out what is the total. I cannot say T1 dot find total now. I cannot say find total because the object T1 has been created from the teacher class. So coming to the teacher class, there is no method called as N. There is going to be no method called as, which is going to be nothing but a find total method was not there. So when you run this, automatically we'll get an error. Sorry. We'll get an error actually, guys. Let me run it actually. So it will get a method error saying that I didn't find any such kind of N. So that is one of the problems. So we have an habituated of working with single quotes completely single quotes. We work with the single quotes completely in the Python actually. Okay. New teacher. Okay. That is also again an error. Yes, absolutely. So it is going to be. No worries, guys, because we are not studying about this actually. Can you observe carefully, guys? So I'm saying that the method was not found. Variable T1 of the teacher type. So cannot find that particular, the T1 dot, which is going to be find total. I cannot find it off. But whenever we said S1 dot, which is going to be find total, that is not a problem. We don't get any error at all because in student one, we have a find total. It won't print anything on the screen, but I'm not going to be getting any error actually, guys. Program is successfully getting executed actually. Okay, right. So got the point, guys. If I define the find total here now, for example, let us say that again, I'm defining a find total here now. So whenever I said find total here, if I try to say something like, if I say something called as an HRA plus TA plus DA, for example, observe carefully. In the student class, I'm trying to find out the total of HRA plus TA plus DA. It is not possible because in student class, we don't have HRA, TA, DA. Only in teacher class, we have it actually. So when you run this, we are going to get an error saying that I didn't find such kind of an attributes at all. So I cannot find that kind of an applications, what we can see that actually. I don't have any such kind of an, the variables called as an HRA, TA plus DA. But same example, if I write here, it is going to be M1 plus, which is going to be M2 plus, which is going to be M3. Same thing as it is copy here. I'm going to be copying here. I'm writing here actually, guys. This is going to be returning, which is going to be HRA plus, which is going to be TA plus, which is going to be TA actually, guys. Now execute it. We don't get any error at all because this find total is going to be within the scope of teacher. This find total is going to be within the scope of a student. If I said T1 dot find total, now if you try T1 dot find total, I don't get any error at all. I'm not displaying anything, but if you want to display, you can find out 5,000 plus 4,400 plus 500. Totally, we are going to be get this value, what we can get it actually. If you want just only this one only, I'm going to be displaying system dot, which is going to be out dot. It is println. It's a Java style actually, guys. So if you don't worry about them who do not have any idea about the Java, it's only just to make you understand the things actually, guys. Run. Just run it actually. A small syntax error, right? So see the difference actually, guys. This is S1 dot find total will find out only the sum of the marks. T1 dot find total will find out only the sum of this particular HRA, DATA. But all the functions, function name is the same, but scope is different actually. The scope is going to be different actually, guys. So that is a way how we are going to be gets working with this object actually. So in object oriented, this is an advantage. So you are one scope, you are one scope. So you don't interact with them, you don't interact with them. You don't have any conflict. Here in ID, here ID, no confusion. Here the name, no confusion. But in procedural style, we cannot do like this. Everything we have to write in a single block and we have to get a confusion with that. Okay. So same as it is in our Python style. If I talk about in our Python style, there is a class called as a list class. Some list class is there. So here just in a, whenever talking about in a basic style, I'm talking about them, guys. Now let us say that I'm going to be writing something called as an public static void main, all these things I'm writing it actually. So internally what happened here is whenever I said like this, I said list X is equals to, let us say that it is a new list. So internally one X is an object is created from a class called as a list class. Whatever the methods, whatever the attributes that are associated with the list, automatically there are going to be associated with this X. So automatically X can work with the same thing actually, guys. Your X can work with the same thing, whatever we can work with them without having an issue. We can work with them actually, guys. Okay. So that is going to be the basically the idea about this particular, what we can call it as the object oriented. In Python, everything is an object only, guys. Everything is going to be an object actually. Everything is going to be object. That's why whenever I said, I'll show you a lot of things actually. Let us open my ideal once again. So whenever I said integer I, actually speaking in Python, you need not to write that much like a class name X is equals to new class. Up to that level is not required. Now have a look at this. I said I is equals to 10. So here I is an object of a class. Which class it is? An integer class. How do you know that? It's a type of the I. So it is not saying that I was a data type called as an integer. It's not saying I was a data type called as an integer. It is saying that I was in class called as an integer class. It is going to be nothing but it is an integer class actually, guys. It's saying that I was an integer class actually, like this. So which we can see as of this particular one. I said, for example, I said some immediately I is equals to, for example, let us say some 10.25. Now I is a type of a class. Which class it is going to be? It is a float class. These are all some kind of an, I'll show you an application actually, guys. Integer is a class, float is a class, bool is a class, string is a class, even complex is a class, list is a class. I said X is equals to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Now X, type of the X, immediately it is an object of a class called as an X class actually. It is an object of a class called as an list class actually. So all the methods and attributes, whatever that is there in the list is associated with the X. How to access it? X dot. Can you see? Append, clear, copy, count, extend, all these are the methods actually, guys. So just to get an idea about, because when you work with the list, we are having so many methods are there, you may get confused with that. Easy to understand. It's not relevant to our discussion, but easy to understand. I want to make you well differentiate between attribute and a method. Look at this. A equals to, we know this, 5 plus 4 plus 5j. It's a class called as an complex class. What is the type of the A? It says that I was a class called as an complex class. It's very clear actually, guys. Class which is going to be nothing but it's a complex class actually. Now, it's a complex class actually, guys. Now what we are going to be doing this actually, guys. If we have a look into this, why I have taken this one is, I can just make it very clear for you to make you understand the concept. That is the reason why I have been taken this kind of an, what I can say is, which I have been taken some kind of an, I can say which is going to be a class object actually. Have a look at this one. Guys. What I'm going to do is, this class called as a complex class, very easy guys. This class called as a complex class is just containing 2 attributes and 1 method. You can just imagine like this. There is a complex class. It is just containing, which is going to be 2 things actually, guys. Yeah. Please be online, guys. I'll be just within 2 minutes. I'll be back. Just please be online. Yeah, guys. Let's continue, guys. So there is a class called as an complex class, where it is going to be gets contain 2 attributes. Very clearly, guys, 2 attributes. What are the 2 attributes actually, guys? One is a real and other one is going to be nothing but it is imaginary. These are the 2 attributes actually, guys. You know what is an attribute? Holds some data. At the same time, I'm having a method also actually, guys. It's not in this one. There is a method called as an conjugate. Conjugate is a method. Okay, what is the conjugate method will do is, again, it is going to return say complex data type only. It actually returns a complex data type only. Okay, you remember what do you mean to say conjugate? So 3 plus 4j conjugate is equals to nothing but 3 minus 4j. Just imaginary value is going to be, just sign will be changes actually. So for 3 minus 4j conjugate is going to be this one actually, guys. Okay, observe carefully. Real and imaginary values are 2 attributes. There are going to be 2 attributes, and conjugate is going to be nothing but, I can say that it is a method actually, guys. It is going to be nothing but it's a method. So real and imaginary, and there is a conjugate method. So what I'm going to do it actually, guys. Look at this. Look at this particular application, guys. Very easy. Only 3 methods. I can take the other classes also, but other classes are going to be little bit confusion for you, because being it is a beginning, because it is an initially. So I just want to make it in a simple way actually, guys. A dot. Very, very clear, guys. A dot. Just 3 methods, 3 members are there. These are all the 3 members, what I can say. Real, imaginary, conjugate. Real, imaginary, conjugate. Real is an attribute. Imaginary is an attribute. Conjugate is a method. So you know how to call them. A dot real. So it is nothing but it will tell you one property of that particular object called as an A. So I'm asking, Tell me what is your real value. So for A, what is the real value? A dot real. A is an object here, guys, which contains representing a value called as 4 plus 5j, which is a complex type. To that, I'm going to be getting a real value. Executes. Done. 4.0. If I said A dot real like this, actually, it's a method. It's like a method, but I don't have any method called as a real. We'll get an error actually. I told you no, float object is not callable because the real is going to be returning a float object. We cannot call it actually. Same as it is A dot image execute. Sorry, A dot which is going to be image. You can see 5. Very simple, guys. This is A. This is your A value. A dot image, A dot real value, and A dot which is going to be imaginary value. That's it, guys. Real and imaginary, 2 values are there. Now, if you want, we can say conjugate. Conjugate is a method. Executes. You are not getting an error, but it is saying that a built-in method called as a conjugate of complex object. Can you see, guys? It is going to be a built-in method called as a conjugate of the complex object. So what we have to say, A dot, I can say conjugate. Done. You can see, guys, it is going to be 4 minus 5j. A dot conjugate, it is going to be 4 minus 5j. That is going to be the idea behind them, guys. 4 minus 5j is going to be nothing but what we can see with an application actually. Got it, guys? So that is all about how we are going to be gets working with the methods. So why I chosen this, guys? I can choose integer value. I can say I equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, but you say I dot, you will be getting you'll get confused with that. Even I can work with string also, guys. String contains still so many. So I cannot hide anything from you, guys. I can't hide anything from you because whenever you set s dot, automatically all the list will come. See, this is a string class. How many methods are there actually, guys? These many methods we are having it actually. So that's why not to have a confusion, I have taken a complex class. Once again, A dot, which is going to be A is that this value, A dot real, A dot imaginary. And this is going to be A dot, which is going to be nothing but I said conjugate. Conjugate is a method. So you can say A dot conjugate. Sorry. So you need not to type it actually, guys. Auto completion, tab space. You just press the tab actually, guys. Automatically it will come. So just actually you need not to type it. Just if you wait for a few seconds, you'll get automatically, guys. If you are not getting anything, just A dot, press the tab, auto completion. It is conjugate. Better option is going to be, don't type it actually, guys. It is conjugate. Over. You can see the tooltip also actually, guys, very clearly. Returns the complex conjugate of its arguments, 3 minus 4j. And input, there is no arguments. We are not taking, you are not giving any input to them actually, guys. We are not giving any input to this. It is 4 minus 5j. Hope you remembered A multiplied by, which is going to be A dot conjugate. You are multiplying the A with the A minus A conjugate value. A is 4 plus 5j. In mathematics, if we write it actually, it is going to be 4 plus, which is going to be 5j. And we are multiplying with a conjugate value, 4 minus 5j. A plus B into A minus B. It is going to be 4 square. A plus B into A minus B is A minus B, A square minus B square. 16 minus, it is 25, which is going to be, it is going to be 25 j square. You know what is a j value actually, guys? Square root of minus 1. Actually, you cannot calculate square root of minus 1. That's why it is our imaginary value. It is going to be 25. J square is going to be nothing but, you say that square will be cancelled. So minus will be gets plus. Then automatically it is going to become 41. 16 plus 25, 41 plus, which is going to be 0j. Isn't it, guys? So it's not that you have to be you have to work with all this mathematics concept. Just I'm telling that kind of a techniques actually, guys. 41 plus 0j is going to be nothing but the values actually. Done actually, guys. So like this, we can just work with that. So complex data, why I'm taking about a complex class? It's a complex class actually. When I said what is going to be type of the A, you can see that it is a class called as a complex class. Okay. So once if you said A dot, once if you create an object, no need to ask anybody actually, guys. Even actually most of the people will learn Python like a self-learning because everything is going to be well documented. So let us say that I didn't discuss about some of the methods. Sir, can I get the documentation? Absolutely, you can get the documentation, guys. Everything is well documented. Everything is well documented. You can just learn the things. I learned Python myself. I didn't learn from anybody. It is completely my self-learning. I learned by myself actually, because my experience and all these things added. That's a different thing actually. So by reading some online resources, by buying some textbooks, so I have been learned by myself actually. I didn't get trained from anybody actually. It's almost all most of the Python, the most of the Pythonists generally we who are going to be working on Python, they're called as a Pythonist and Pythonist. So they will be self-running actually. Very easy to learn. Just if you know the basics, you can learn the things actually, guys. Everything is well documented. You can get the help, you can get the documentation, you can execute, practice. Everything we can do with an applications without having any problem actually, guys. Right? So that's it. This is going to be about them. So our main target is going to be what, guys? There is a list is there. So if you see, there are 11 methods are there: append, clear, copy, count, extend, index, insert, pop, remove, reverse, and sort. Down there is one more is there actually, guys. Exactly, there are 11 methods are there. We have to study what are these 11 methods. What are these 11 methods? What is manipulations actually, guys? I want to add some elements to the X. I want to clear the element from the X. I want to make a copy. I want to count how many times it was there. What is extend? What is index? What is insert? What is pop? What is remove? What is going to be reverse? What is going to be sort? Something we have to study with them. These are for manipulation. They're methods actually, guys. If I simply say like this, we're getting an error actually. It's a built-in method. It's not it's a method. It's not an attribute actually to call like this. Got it, guys? Anyhow, just put it aside. Our main understanding here is we understood the style of object-oriented. In Python, you need not to create the class. No need of creating the class. Okay. No class is created. No creation of class. Okay. No create a class. No class creation. Second thing is going to be nothing but we need not to create object. Object creation also we need not to do. Object creation also we don't require. Everything is going to be done by that particular object. Python will take care about that. I is equals to 1, 2, 3, 4. I is an object here, guys. Don't call it as a variable. I is an object here now, which is created from a class called as an integer class. So whatever the methods associated with the integer class, all of them I can use it on I. S is equals to, for example, some object, which is going to be tomorrow we'll create a set object. I'll tell you set object. Automatically S will be associated with all the methods which are associated with the set object actually, guys. Like that, it is going to be gets working with them. Okay. So that is going to be the basically the understanding about how we are going to be working with this kind of a methods. Okay. 2 days it will take it, guys. 2 days. At least it will take even at least minimum 1 day it will take, and half of the second day it will take it actually. Because I have to make you understand what is a function, what is a method. I have to well differentiate between them. Remember, if you are directly writing, for example, you can find the length of the string. Length is a function actually, guys. Length is a function, length of X. So X, this one, this is a function, guys. If I said X dot length, generally I'm talking about that. If I said X dot length, so length is not associated with any object. I can use it with a list, or you can use it with a tuple. I can use it with some other thing. It's a function. But when the function is associated with an object like this, then it is called as a method. But this length is only for finding the length of only this object only, this type of object, not with any kind of an object. But this length is not like that. It is a function. You can find the length of any object. So when you are saying that this concept, this functionality with any kind of an object, that is a function. If you are limiting only to a particular class or only to a particular object, then it is going to be what we are going to call it as method. So if it is within the scope of a class, it is a method. If it is not within the scope of a class, it is going to be nothing but we call it as a function actually, guys. Okay. So that's it about for the today's class, guys. So just for today, I'll stop it here. So actually, it's an actually generally Saturday's classes will be there. Last 2 weeks you already given enough. So tomorrow, unfortunately, I will be traveling. Tomorrow I may not be available. So I have to travel at 7:30. So your class is not possible for today, tomorrow. So your next class will be on Monday, guys. Okay. And already we have started with the regular classes has been started. So almost all the demos and everything has been got completed. So if still, if anybody has been still not yet registered with the registered for the course, Still, if we have any relating to the payments and all these things, if we can just complete off from Monday onwards, a new link will be starting actually, guys. At that, I think so that will be the last link actually. That means last link means that is a final link. So because no more demos from the next week. So that will be the final link. And almost all from the next Monday, that means coming Monday, you will be having the main classes are going to be getting started. Already started, but slowly. But main classes, once you start, we'll enter into the main topics actually, guys. So tomorrow, being I was not available, I have to travel to Bangalore. So tomorrow I'm not going to be available, guys. So from Monday onwards, we'll continue with the regular sessions, guys. Okay. So that's it for the today's class, guys. Anyone, guys, any questions from your side? If you have any questions, anyone? Right, guys. Fine. So thanks, guys. Thanks for the today's session. So just if you want, you can just make a small practices, guys, because I think so you don't really require any complicated materials and all these things, complex material and advanced materials. Basic things like installations, those things we can just start up the things and we can just start working with them. And I told you, guys, go to the W3 schools and you just try to study. What is object oriented if you do not have any idea about them, and we can do the things actually, guys. Okay, so that's it for the today's class, guys, and we'll meet on the Monday's class. I think so. Anyhow, don't worry. If any new link will come, you please join with the new link, guys. If you didn't get any new link, you have to join with the same link only. Okay, so don't expect that. My knowledge according to my basic knowledge. So from next Monday, you will be having a new link. In the case if you didn't get a new link, don't worry. So join with the same old link only. If any new link comes, automatically my backend team is going to be, they will update you with that particular new link. Please check your mails. In your mails, you will be getting the new links will be coming actually, guys. Okay. So that's it for the today's class, guys. So just for today, end of the session and we'll meet on the Monday's class. Thank you all of you, guys.